If there was a civilization that flourished in Mesoamerica before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors and which was responsible for building one of the largest cities in the world at its peak, it was the Aztec Empire. This civilization, which lasted from the 14th century to the 16th century, during which it dominated large parts of what is today Mexico, had many secrets that continue to surprise scientists even today. It is true that despite being a warlike society, highly dedicated to rituals and sacrifices, they were also very advanced for their time and left us a legacy that continues to be studied. But how did they go from being an insignificant tribe to creating the largest city in the world? Why did they practice human sacrifice so often? And what innovations did they leave us that we still use today? We invite you to stick around to find out more. A look back in time. Before the Aztecs became an empire, they were just an insignificant tribe of nomadic hunters who lived in what is now the Valley of Mexico. According to their own legends, the Aztecs came from a place called Aztlan, which some believe could be located near the shores of Lake Texcoco. The story goes that the wandering Aztecs came across a prophecy that foretold the founding of a great city on an island in the middle of a lake. And so they set out to find this place. After many years of searching, they finally found the island, which was exactly as the prophecy had described it. And so in 1325, the first settlements of the Mexica, also known as the Aztecs, began on the island, which would later become known as Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs quickly grew in power and influence, eventually conquering neighboring city-states and forming alliances with other tribes. By the early 15th century, they had become the dominant power in the region, and the capital of Tenochtitlan was one of the largest cities in the world. But it wasn't just the size of the city that impressed the world, but also the incredible innovations that the Aztecs introduced. One of the most important innovations of the Aztecs was the development of a system of canals and dams that allowed them to control the flow of water from Lake Texcoco. This innovation allowed them to create floating gardens, known as chinampas, which were used for agriculture. These floating gardens consisted of islands of vegetation supported by a network of canals and were an ingenious way of using the resources of the lake to grow crops. The chinampas were not only highly productive, but also an integral part of the Aztec economy. In fact, these floating gardens provided much of the food consumed by the city's inhabitants. In addition to their work on the canals and dams, the Aztecs were also skilled engineers and architects. The construction of their pyramids and palaces was truly impressive, and they developed a unique style of architecture that combined religion and urban planning. For example, the Templo Mayor, the main temple of the Aztec Empire, was located in the center of the city and was dedicated to the gods Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc. The temple was a massive structure with two temples on top of a raised platform and was adorned with intricate carvings and paintings depicting scenes from Aztec mythology. But the Aztecs weren't just innovators in engineering and architecture, they were also highly skilled in astronomy and mathematics. They developed a sophisticated calendar system and made significant advances in the understanding of the cosmos. In fact, the Aztec calendar is still used today by some indigenous communities in Mexico. The Aztecs also kept detailed records of astronomical observations and created a system of numerical notation that was used throughout the empire. Another important contribution of the Aztecs was their development of a writing system. Despite the fact that many people believe that the Aztecs were an oral culture without a writing system, the truth is that they had a sophisticated system of pictographs and ideograms that were used to record historical events, religious texts, and other types of information. The Aztec writing system was not as widespread as the Maya or the Zapotec, but it was nonetheless an important innovation for the time. And finally, the Aztecs were also innovators in the field of art. Their sculptures, paintings, and other works of art are highly prized by collectors today and are considered some of the finest examples of Pre-Columbian art. The Aztecs were particularly skilled in working with obsidian, a volcanic glass that they used to create stunning works of art and adornment. While the Aztecs were highly innovative, they were also known for their fierce warrior spirit and their practice of human sacrifice. The Aztecs believed that war was a necessary part of life and that victory in battle brought them closer to the gods. They also believed that human sacrifice was necessary to maintain the balance between the living and the dead, and that those who died in battle or were sacrificed would have a better chance of reaching the afterlife. It should be noted that not all Aztec warriors were feared. Some were actually highly respected for their bravery and skill in battle. In fact, There were Aztec warriors who were considered heroes, especially those who led successful military campaigns and expanded the empire's territory. One of the most famous Aztec warriors was Aztec, also known as the two-sided serpent. He was a legendary warrior who is said to have been the first Aztec emperor to conquer the neighboring tribes and expand the empire's territory. Another famous Aztec warrior was Tenochtitlan, also known as the Old Speaker. He was an Aztec ruler who led his people to victory in numerous battles against rival tribes. Despite their military successes, the Aztecs eventually fell victim to the Spanish conquistadors. The Spanish arrived in Mexico in the early 16th century and quickly began to conquer the Aztec Empire. One of the most important factors contributing to the fall of the Aztecs was the introduction of diseases such as smallpox and measles, which devastated the indigenous population, who had no immunity against them. Another factor was the use of horses by the Spanish cavalry, which gave them a significant advantage in battle. Finally, the superior weapons of the Spanish, such as firearms and steel armor, also played an important role in their victory. One of the last Aztec emperors was Cuauhtémoc, who fought bravely against the Spanish conquistadors, but ultimately could not prevent the fall of his empire. After the fall of the Aztec Empire, the Spanish colonial authorities sought to erase all traces of the Aztec culture and religion. Many of their sacred sites were destroyed and their religious texts were burned. However, despite the efforts of the Spanish, the Aztec culture survived and continues to thrive in modern Mexico. Myths and legends. When talking about the Aztecs, it is impossible not to mention their myths and legends, which played an important role in shaping their culture and society. One of the most important myths of the Aztecs is the legend of the founding of Tenochtitlan. As we have already mentioned, according to this legend, the Aztecs came from a place called Aztlan and followed a prophecy that foretold the founding of a great city on an island in the middle of a lake. They wandered for many years until they finally found the island and founded the city of Tenochtitlan. Another important Aztec myth is the legend of the birth of the sun. According to this myth, the sun was born from the blood of a sacrificial god who gave his life so that the world could exist. The Aztecs believed that this sacrifice was necessary to maintain the balance between the living and the dead, and that the sun was a manifestation of the goddess' heart that continued to beat in the sky. This myth had a profound impact on the Aztec religion and their belief in the importance of human sacrifice. In addition to these myths, the Aztecs also had many legends about their gods and heroes. One of the most famous Aztec gods was Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the patron god of the city of Tenochtitlan. Another important god was Tlaloc, the rain god, who was venerated for his ability to bring rain and fertility to the land. The Aztecs also had legends about their heroes, such as the legendary warrior Itzcoatl, whom we have already mentioned, who was said to be the first Aztec emperor to conquer the neighboring tribes and expand the empire's territory. These myths and legends were not only an important part of Aztec culture, but also played a key role in shaping their worldview and their relationship with the natural world. The Aztecs believed that the gods were present in every aspect of nature and that they should live in harmony with the natural world. This belief led them to develop sustainable agricultural practices and a deep respect for the environment. Human sacrifice, a necessary evil. Human sacrifice was a common practice among the Aztecs and other Mesoamerican cultures. For the Aztecs, human sacrifice was a necessary evil to appease the gods and maintain the balance between the living and the dead. They believed that the gods required human blood and hearts to maintain the order of the universe, and that without these offerings, the world would fall into chaos. The Aztecs sacrificed both prisoners of war and members of their own society. Prisoners of war were often seen as an easy source of human sacrifice, but members of their own society were also sacrificed on special occasions, such as the inauguration of a new ruler or during major religious festivals. During the Aztec Empire, it was not uncommon for entire families to be sacrificed during these rituals. It is important to note that human sacrifice was not the only form of worship practiced by the Aztecs. They also offered flowers, fruits, precious objects, and incense to their gods. However, they believed that human sacrifice was the ultimate offering and that without it, their gods would become angry and cause destruction. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the Aztec Empire? Do you think human sacrifice was ever justified? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.